there was a meeting, and Stearns was there, and Mendoza was there, and there was one player who spoke up. Because the last meeting, Pete was at the hospital after he got drilled getting x-rays. And, of course, that helped get the Mets going, and a lot of us point to that moment and that meeting as a jump-off point for these 2024 New York Mets. Listen, I understand. I know that Pete's goofy, and he's not great with a mic, and he leans on cliches, and it is what it is. And he's not performed the way he's needed to perform this season. But this is a flicker of hope, because the one thing that I think has been largely forgotten, and this is coming from a guy who's told you many times going back to last year, there is no way I would give Pete Alonso a long-term deal. Pete Alonso is still incredibly capable of going on a heater that can carry this team for a month. I give him immense credit and immense respect, probably stepping out of his comfort zone and addressing a locker room that knows he's a little odd in a good way, and then going out and backing it up and hitting the 3-run bomb, meaningless, whatever, pounding the Nationals. The Mets are rolling, and Pete Alonso just jumped into the party.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I mean, you say meaningless, whatever, but again, it was a 3-run homer where they were up 6-1 against the Nationals. The game was over.
But he did stuff before that.
Yeah, okay, a little bloop flare in the right field. No, I'm not knocking him. He did have 3 hits, and he hit the hard double, off the wall in right center field or right field, which could have been a home run as well. It was a nice game for Alonso, and the bloop hit, the excuse me, 2-ribby single that blooped in there was more important than the home run because of the time that it happened in the game. I've heard this before with Alonso. I've said it before. Hey, this is where Pete's going to get hot. This is where Pete's going to take off. And yet we haven't seen it. The impact hasn't been felt. I'm not going to go nuts and believe that Pete is back and Pete's going to go on a heater and carry the team because he hit a meaningless 3-run homer. I got to be consistent. If Giancarlo Stanton did this for the Yankees, I'd be saying, hey, yeah, big deal. It's 6-1 game against the Nationals. So big deal, Pete. The game was over. It wasn't an important home run. Another stat where another moment where you're padding your stats and piling on. Now, I'm not knocking him.
Yep.
I'm just trying to bring everybody back to reality for a second. What the Mets are doing is great. What Alonso did last night was nice. Ultimately, he's got to do it in big moments against the better teams like the Phillies, like the Braves, and then like the Brewers if the Mets are to be a playoff team. And because he had, he said something in the meeting, I'm not, Pete has turned the corner. Pete is back. Lifelong Mets, sign him up. Look, maybe the Mets will extend him. Maybe the Mets will make him a lifelong Met. Who the hell knows? We'll decide that at the end of the year. We'll figure it out. But I'm not going to overreact to a bloop base hit and a meaningless 3-run homer as far as the impact on the game goes.
Listen, even before last night, he's shown some signs here. But, can you show the man a little more respect than the Giancarlo Stanton analogy? Pete is, and I'm not even a huge Pete Alonso fan.
Right.
He's so much better than Stanton.
Well, I'm just saying that Stanton would hit a meaningless homer and I'd get on him. So if that's going to be the case, I'm not going to go nuts by it. The guy, he hit a 3-run homer when they're up 6-1 against the Nationals when the game is over.
You got to start somewhere. Listen, I just think it's very hard for Pete because he's just awkward.
You think this gets him going?
Yeah, I do.
Well, how about this?
I actually do.
How about
and
this?
by the way, Sal, I think the fact that he stepped, I think for Lindor and for Martinez to speak up in front of the team, whatever, a couple of months ago, I think that's more natural for them. I think, and you've seen it when he dropped the F-bomb on the field with Gales. He's just awkward. He is what he is socially.
Which is fine. That's what makes him lovable to a certain extent.
No question. When I say goofy, it's kind of a term of endearment, provided you're playing well. All right, and which he has not, for the most part, played this season. But let's not forget, and again, coming from me, who's been a verbal detractor in terms of him being here for a long time and his lack of leadership and all the other things that I've talked about, 30 years old, heavy-footed first baseman, righty stick. It's going against the grain and the recent trends in Major League Baseball. Why would you give him 6, 7, 8 years, which they're not going to, nor would I. But for that man to step up in front of that room, that was uncomfortable for him yesterday. And when the general manager and the manager addressed the team about Lindor and, hey, what we're trying to do and where we're going, and he steps up and he says whatever he said, however he said it, and then he hits a 3-run bomb, and the Mets win again, and they pummel a bad Nationals team 10-1. I do believe that this could be the start of Pete Alonso saying, I'm going to carry you guys for a little bit because he's capable of it.
About friggin' time, but let's see it. A 3-run homer in a 6-1 game against the Nationals is not carrying this team. He's got to do it against Philadelphia. What happened over the course of the weekend? Well, they didn't have Lindor. He was banged up. The offense was nowhere to be found in a hitter's ballpark, and Pete Alonso, the only home run he hit. Bryce Harper's going deep multiple times. Look around the league. All their stars are hitting big home runs. Judge and Soto are on fire as they're getting hot. And Pete Alonso's only home run comes against a position player, and Roger Clemens' kid. The Mets needed him against Philadelphia. They didn't get that. They're going to need him again against Philadelphia. The one thing that I love that Pete said, he was talking about, and he's the right guy to talk about this, talking about how he wants to celebrate with the guys because they didn't have an opportunity to do that in 2022 because they didn't want to celebrate until they won the division.
I remember that bothering you. I remember we talked about that. I remember.
I was fine with saying you're not going to celebrate until you win the division. But the problem is they coughed up the division to Atlanta, and they didn't have a chance to celebrate, period, which is something that they should have had because they won 101 games, and they didn't even get to have a champagne celebration. And then before you knew it, it went from potentially division winners to being out in 3 games against the Padres, and that was that. The only team that didn't have a champagne celebration. Pete endured that. He lived through that. Now, I mean, again, they could have done something about it and actually beat the Padres or beat the Braves for a game, but he lived through that. He doesn't want to have that happen again, so I like that coming from him, saying that he wants to celebrate with his teammate. What he said in the meeting, fine. I just need to see him go do it, BT. Him and the rest of those Mets players, whether it's Lindor, whether it's Nimmo, they have something to prove still. Go beat the Braves head-to-head in Atlanta. Even though they have a 2-game lead now, they're going to have to do it then. So I'll get excited when Pete homers against the Phillies or when Pete homers against the Braves or when Pete homers against the Brewers to put the playoff spot away, not against the Nationals in a game that was already won by the Mets.
All right, it's number. Let's get to this. 888-808-1019. I couldn't wait to start the show today. I thought that was really, really impressive. Big on his end, going up there and speaking and then following things up, meaningless home run, whatever. Hey, they say sometimes a little bloop, you're 1 for 19, a little bloop, a little dribble, and that gets you going. Why can't a little quote-unquote meaningless home run get you going as well? It can. And listen, I've always said I'm never building a team long-term around Pete Alonso, but I'm also going to remind myself, because maybe even at times this year I've forgotten that, this man is a prolific home run hitter all time, right there with Ralph Kiner and others. Don't tell me he can't carry this team for a month or so. And with Lindor's status unknown, they're going to need an awesome start, and I'm happy for him. Let me say that as well. I'm actually happy for Pete. All right, 888-808-1019. We're inside of our Town Fair Tire studio. Our friends at Town Fair remind you that you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. It's my buddy Pete getting hot at the right time. Josie is on Staten Island, BT and Sal. Josie, what's going on?
Hello.
Yes.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
My name's Jose.
Oh, Jose. It says, my bad. It
What's
does say
up,
Jose. It says Jose.
Evans.
What?
Hello?
Yeah, Evan's not
He's
here.
off to a
I'm
bad
sorry.
start, buddy.
No, my mistake. Hold up. Sal, my mistake. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sal, you keep saying, the Mets won that game before Alonso hit the 3-run home run. I got news for you. Atlanta was up 5-1 against the Cincinnati Reds. Mm-hmm. And guess who won that game?
Yeah.
You can't say it's over until the last out.
That's right, Jose.
It was 6-1. It was 6-1. He piled on. It was 6-1. There was a pile on home.
It's better to keep piling on because, you know something? You never know with this game. Who can come back at any time.
But, Jose, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about it wasn't a big home run. Like, I didn't see anything from Pete last night that would make me believe that he's going to carry this team now. I've seen moments from Pete throughout the course of the year, and everybody keeps saying, well, he could carry this team. He could get hot and carry this team for a month. There's 2 weeks left in the season. Less than that, actually.
And I agree with you.
Okay.
But let's hope he's starting to crawl. He's starting to crawl before he starts walking. Hopefully,
he better start running. He better start running. There's 11 games left. There is no time to crawl and then walk, Jose. He's got to start running.
Listen.
Let's go, baby. It's time to wrap it up.
If he starts running, let me tell you something. You're going to be sounding different if he starts running during Philadelphia and Atlanta series. I'll guarantee you that.
Well,
hopefully he will.
Yeah, well, that's a different story, Jose, and good call.
That's what Sal said, by the way. That's what he wants.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And by the way, that's not just for Pete. That's for the entire team.
Yep.
And I've been saying that for weeks. Like, it's great that the Mets are 2 games up now on Atlanta and tied with the Diamondbacks.
Tied with Diamondbacks. Here you go.
they're still going to be judged on what they do against Philadelphia and more specifically Atlanta head-to-head.
I'll tell you this. If the score was 10-1 and they banged out the 14 hits like they did and they had 3 home runs, Acuna went down, Alfred started to heat up a little bit as well, very quietly. Even the other night.
That was a bigger home run because the game was 4-1 at the point.
It was nice, but even, and we talked about this very briefly because yesterday was a big Giants day here. I loved the night before where the Mets won it with the ghost runner where he was in the hole, I think it was 0-2 or 1-2, and he had that nice, pretty deep to the warning track, kind of a line, not even like a pop-up, kind of a liner. I thought that was a good approach, and he's been hitting a couple of home runs. He's waking up a little bit. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. If the Mets won 10-1 and did all the things that they did, including Pete with 5 or 6 RBIs, I think it was 5 RBIs and the home run, but he didn't lead the team meeting or at least didn't step out of his cup. Like that, to me, that is why I'm so intrigued and impressed because when you're not carrying your weight, and he hasn't, and he knows it, and deep down Boris knows it, deep down everybody in that locker room knows that on some level, 10, 12, 15%, however you want to quantify it statistically, Pete has not done what we thought he would do. And he's not comfortable with a microphone. To look in the eyes of 25 grown men, more because they were officials there, and go out and produce 5 ribbies, hey, that is impressive to me. I don't know how you don't love that.
I think the meeting.
You always say he's not a leader, and I don't disagree. Yeah, well, he tries to lead. He hits a home run. It's not good enough for you.
I think the meeting part of it is being blown up. And I told you I liked what he said, but I think that's being blown up. He's the only player to speak. It wasn't a players-only meeting, and it wasn't the same meeting that they had when they were struggling with Lindor and Martinez being front and center.
True.
Back then. So that to me is not irrelevant, but it's not the same impact. And yeah, he had a great game.
I think it's more.
He had a great game.
I think it's more. Can I tell you why? I don't know if it's a great analogy here, but we do our meetings. We were discussing some things, you and Hoff and Patty Boyle today. Now, imagine a station meeting, like a state of WFAN.
Right.
Now, I mean, I'm fairly comfortable speaking in front of anybody. I think you are as well. And we happen to know Chris Olivero, our boss forever. And I've known Ryan Hurley, our new PD, brand manager for 20 years. So there's familiarity there. But I would feel, not everybody would feel comfortable speaking in front of bosses.
Right.
He did. So he's not even comfortable talking on the field with Gelbs.
Right.
But here he was in front of the manager and the new GM, who might not even want him, by the way.
And what he said, I thought was fine about the celebrating. Yeah, to me, I didn't get the sense of, wow, what a leader. Like, I'm not changing my opinion on that. I know what Pete Alonso is. He's a great power hitter. I just want to see him hit some big home runs. I do. Here, instead of talking about, well, he could carry this team for a month, he could carry this team for a stretch, I want to see him actually do it.
Oh, maybe he started last night.
Well, let's see.
I like it. Frank's in Ronkonkoma, BT and South. Frank, what's happening?
Hey, what's happening, guys?
Hello,
what's up, Frank?
Frankie.
What's going on? So, yeah, I totally agree. I think that Pete Alonso is a great player. I think that, he's having a pretty tough year this year. But honestly, I agree. I'm not really impressed right now. Listen, it's the Nationals. They're the worst team in probably baseball, if I had to look.
Yeah.
Honestly, let me say National League. But I will say it comes down to this series coming up, the Phillies. If Pete Alonso steps up without Lindor, great. I will be a little surprised. But you have to look at, again, the Atlanta series, too. Mm-hmm. The Brewers, too. I agree. I think you need,
how about a 3-run home run? How about a 3-run homer in the first inning, or a 2-run homer, whatever it may be, or a big spot home run? Like, those are things that he's going to have to do. Now, again, last night, you're not taking it away, BT. He had 5 ribbies, sure, but he, because of what happened in the past, and the rest of this core group, Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso, those guys are going to be judged on what they do down the stretch here. It's nice that they have a 2-game lead now. It's not over. Long way from over. And last time it went down to Atlanta in 2022, all they had to do was win a single game. They failed to do so. It might be the same thing this time. Maybe they go in there just needing 1 win, and they're going to eliminate the Braves or clinch a playoff spot. Are they going to do it? I don't know. They have to prove it. And Alonso's going to be a big part of that, especially with Lindor being banged up.
Listen, here's what I know. To flourish in October, you got to get to October.
Yep.
All right, so I understand... Again, I'll put quotes around a meaningless home run against the Nationals, who are pretty much a doormat this year. That's one thing, and doing that against the Braves or Phillies, quite the other. But if last night was not necessarily a foreshadow of a heater, of a 2-week run against divisional foes to cement the postseason spot, and he has a little intermittent success, fluctuates without Lindor, but he's not carrying the Mets into the postseason. But they get there. and then he hits 2 or 3 big home runs in October.
That's a different
Well,
story.
that's what I'm saying. Maybe, Again, maybe it's not always linear. I mean, it's got to start somewhere. His head must be a mess this year. I'm just impressed by a guy who stepped out of a comfort zone. He doesn't speak. Not that he's not intelligent. He doesn't. It's not easy. It's not normal. It's not natural for him to address. I don't think a lot of people in a very public forum like that. And I thought he did a great job, and he backed it up. Frank's in White Plains. Frankie, what's going on?
Hello, guys.
Hey,
You
Frank.
see, I didn't bother you all summer because I was away. I just came back.
Where'd you go, Frankie?
I went to Italy and Croatia and Montenegro.
Oh, welcome back,
Very
Frank. Good to have you
nice.
aboard.
Yeah, and I had a great time.
Attaboy.
Listen, Sal, you are 100% right. Because you know what happened is I got the All-Stars the other night when they won in 10 innings, and he keeps striking out all the time. Listen, Alonso have to put us in the playoffs to get that big contract. That's why he's there for. Other than that, forget about him.
Yeah, but now,
Okay?
Frank.
And I'm a huge fan.
Yep. I got you. No, I remember when you haven't called us. You didn't call us from Italy, but I know that you're a big fan. I got you. Thanks for the call there, buddy. Welcome back to the States. Hopefully you had a good summer. What did you say, Italy and Croatia?
Yeah. Not bad. I've never been either.
I mean, did you go solo or did you go with someone? I don't know what's better.
Well, I'd have to go with my wife.
Well, I'm saying him.
Like married. Oh, him.
I don't know what's better.
Yeah, well,
Depends. A lot of nice beaches out there. Anyway, this is not about, because I don't believe he's going to get 6 or 7 years. There's no way I would do it. But, Pete Alonso, who's been a polarizing figure for really since he stepped into our lives here, because he breaks the rookie home run record by hitting 53 home runs. We're like, wow. Who's this guy? Mm-hmm. And then, he kind of just takes the imagination of Met fans, and you're wondering, like, is this an all-time great? 500 in terms of home runs, like that power prowess. And then the contract, and then, the average declining for 2 straight years. It is easy to forget that Pete Alonso, for his Mets tenure, has been a lot more of a star than not.
Well, think about this. In a bad year, he's going to hit 35 home runs. He's got 33 right now. You'd hope that he's going to hit at least a couple more before the season's over. So in a bad year, he's still going to hit 30-plus home runs. That's what he does consistently, produce with power. He's not going to hit 50 every year, but you should get between 35 and 40 the majority of time. The average is what used to separate him because you could be a power hitter that's going to hit 260, something like that.
Yep.
That's what made him special early on. Obviously, that's dropped off, as you mentioned. This year he's at 246. Last year was at 217. But to me, of those, and it plays the part of last night, for a guy to have 33 home runs but have minimal impact on this team, that's actually hard to do. Like, how have those 33 home runs been, for the most part, quiet? I'm not saying every one of them was meaningless or wasn't clutch, but you just felt, watching this team all year long, we've had this conversation many times, BT,
no question,
that his impact in comparison to others, whether it's Lindor, Vientos, Iglesias, you name them, Alonso's impact has not been felt the way that you expect it to be. That needs to change for the final 11 games of the season and the postseason.
And if last night's the start, everybody's going to forget. And I think last night was the start. I think he's going to go nuts for a little bit here. I'd love to see it. True, because if he doesn't, I don't think the Mets can get to the World Series.
You know what I'd love to see? You get some water. What's going on?
I know. I'm just, a little sick.
Are you?
I mean, I'm just battling.
You came in today sick?
Dude, you came in the other day when your wife had COVID.
I know, but we took a test. I was good to go. No, it's all right.
Waste the money on those stupid tests anymore. If I could breathe, I'm coming in.